and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's good to have you here and to be sitting down for another conversation on Crystal One-on-One. We happen to be at the beautiful, lush, green Carnival Gardens in Naguru, and today I have a writer and activist, author of Ara, that is Michelle Omamteker, joining me. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Really happy to be here.
I'm looking at the earrings. I'm looking at the dress.
You know.
I know there's an arrangement with the shoes.
That's the story. That's between me and you, Crystal.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I've been very well, thank you. Thankfully, healthy despite everything that's going on.
Despite what's happening in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what's happening in the world? People have mixed feelings. It's interesting we've had enough time for people to really express how the last almost 2 years has affected them. What about you?
I think it has really exposed, I would say, the inequality in this world. And I often say that COVID-19 is a poor man's disease that is brought by rich people.
Wow.
Yeah. So rich people go and travel all over the world and go to crowded places, and then they come and put the brunt of all the burden on the poor man who can't social distance because they're living in a slum. How do you social distance in a slum?
Yeah.
How do you wash your hands after I don't know how many minutes when you have to buy a jerry can of water?
And you have literally this much soap to take you through the week.
Exactly. So you find that I feel that a lot of people had this feeling that COVID-19 was some sort of an equalizer. No, I don't think so. I don't. It kept on saying that, oh, it kills you whether you're rich or whether you're poor. No. When you're rich or middle income earning, you get to have that, opportunity or that choice to social distance or to quarantine or
to even go and test to begin with, so you catch it early and buy the supportive medication you need.
But when you're a poor person who had really most of the time nothing to do with this pandemic coming into the country, then your livelihood is cut off. Then on top of that, you can't mitigate its transference. So for me, I feel that COVID-19 is one of the issues. There's a wider conversation that needs to be had beyond just, because as an activist, I always look at the social impact of every single thing. So for me, I think the conversation on people's mental health, now that I would say cuts across the board. It doesn't really matter from which side of the coin you are, which side of society you are. The mental health, I think, also has been very, very, very damning for the last 2 years. You find yourself in situations when you think to yourself, are things ever going to go back to being the same? How are people really going through this pandemic? How are they feeding their kids? How, if even you're in a position of, you'd say somewhat comfort, but you're not sure about how next month is going to go. So, you really think about people who are at the lower end of society. So I think for me, this experience has made me even more deliberate in what I want to do. And, I remember at the start of the pandemic, there were a lot of, because I'm a disability rights activist, and you find that there are so many persons with disabilities who depend on medication. For example, the ones who have epilepsy, the ones who have cerebral palsy, they depend on this constant medication, which most of the time they get at subsidized rates from government hospitals. But a lot of these hospitals were now cordoned off as quarantine centers.
Exactly. We haven't even looked at that ripple effect.
Yes. So as a foundation, we lost a number of children during that time. Children with epilepsy, children with cerebral palsy. There were a number of losses we had, and I think that there was so much of a wider conversation that wasn't had or wasn't looked at. People really weren't thinking about people who needed dialysis during the lockdown, people who couldn't move because you only have one dialysis center and Kampala area, so people had to come from Gulu, people had to come from Bara.
And yet we had a national
but we had a
lockdown. Borders were
lockdown.
closed.
Yes. So I think there really needs to be also an accountability of the lives we lost.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I 100% agree. And a lot of people have talked about that, you know, the focus was on the people who were dying from COVID-19, but we haven't looked at so many other people that were affected as a result of all the measures that were put in place.
I mean, of course.
And you, with Malengo Foundation, you actually saw it firsthand.
Yes. So even there was a time when even just having the infrastructure to give help, because even you could have the help, but the infrastructure, like I said, because there were so many lockdown, there was a lockdown, you couldn't move, there's no car, you know, unless you had a sticker, and obviously
and
there's
that was a process.
That was a process to get that. They were not necessarily giving all NGOs or CBOs the stickers, so you find that a lot of the beneficiaries, you might have had the help, but having the access to help was really technical. And there's a wider, I hope that once we come out of this, I know there's no way to come out of a disease, it will be with us forever, but once we come to terms and understand how to navigate the situation better, I hope that we can also have an honest conversation as to and honor the lives of the people who are lost as a result of the interventions, although very needed, but yes, and to see how in the future this doesn't
can be avoided, right?
Yes, can be avoided.
Well, we can protect
still
people.
Run
smoothly.
Yes, we can protect people, but that not have to lose others, you know, senselessly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So Michelle.
Yes.
Born and bred Ugandan.
Yes. In Entebbe.
So you were born in. She lives in
Yes.
Entebbe. She loves the peace.
I was born in Kitoro.
Okay.
Which is the market.
Yes, at the back there.
Yes, yes.
And you've never felt the need to like move to Kampala?
No.
Okay.
That's
but I know you left for university, yes?
Yes, I did. I was in South Africa for university. I always used to joke and say that I fly out of the country more than I'd come to Kampala.
Oh my gosh.
Especially countries where you don't need a visa. Like Kenya and, you know, all these places. You just, you know, I would fly out more than I would, you know, come to Kampala. And I remember also when we were little, you never had to be the one to go to line up for a visa. It was always your parents, you know, they'd go with your passport. So then they come and give you a passport, and then you're going maybe to Europe
and
or
then
whatever.
You grow up and then you have a rude shock.
And then you have a rude shock, you have to line up, you have to wake up, you're like, what is this?
I'm like, people never warned us about adulting. It's not fair.
I tell my nieces and nephews all the time, enjoy this piece, enjoy it. But yes, Entebbe, born, bred, everything, yes. But of course,
parents there.
Yes.
Okay.
Family, my whole family actually lives there.
Okay.
My siblings as well.
So where was school for you also in Entebbe? Was it all the way to high school or things changed?
No. Of course.
Boarding school?
Boarding school. But of course, I also studied in Kampala. But where I have spent most of my social life, I would say, has been in Entebbe.
Okay.
Yes.
So as an activist or writer, when did you discover this side of yourself? Is it something like you were always that child who used to speak up for others, or did that come later in life?
No, I was always that child who used to speak up for others, but I didn't know that I thought that's what everybody did. I always tell this story. When I remembered the first time, I would say that my activism began, or my mother noticed that something's going on here. Yes, I was in S1 in Gaza at the time. I came home for the holidays, and a boy came to our house, and he's called Sam, and he comes and he was looking for money, or you know, he looked exactly like someone who'd been in my school.
Okay.
Right? When I was in primary school. So I didn't understand. I had this very limited and naive idea of life, and I thought maybe poor people looked a certain way, talked a certain way, and he did not fit that mold.
Ooh,
he looked like me, he spoke like me, and I remember asking him, I said, why are you looking for money? I said, can't you ask your parents? I was very naive. And he said to me, no, he's orphaned. And then I said, oh, he told me he was recently orphaned. He was in his P7 vacation. So we got to talking. He told me his whole story. He told me where he lived. And then after that, he said to me that he really wanted to go to Kisubi. He was a devout Catholic. He really wanted to go to Kisubi. But of course, he couldn't go because he didn't have money. He had just lost his mother. He lost his father prior, but now he had just lost his mother. And he says, they used to rent in a certain place, so the landlady let him stay in the garage place because he's a nice boy. So he used to do different work, selling for her in the market because she had a stall in the market and things like that. But he really wanted to go to school.
Imagine coming home to a vacation each day, to a place of pure serenity, a place of pure luxury for you to entertain and unwind. At Jacana Heights, dreams come true. Take your pick from spacious 1, 2, or 3 bedroom apartments and luxurious 4-bedroom penthouses, built to international standards with fine, exceptional finishing. Located on Konge Hill, Buziga, with incredible views and a fresh breeze from the nearby Lake Victoria. It's a place for your body, soul, and mind with a wide array of amenities. Contact us for more information. Jacana Heights, luxury hilltop living.
And then I asked him, do you want to go to school, Kisubi, or do you just want to go to any school? And then he said, I just want to go to school. Then I thought to myself and I said, isn't there a school, a cheaper school than Kisubi? Then he said, of course, there are lots of cheaper schools than Kisubi. So I said, if you find one, you let me know and I see if I can pay for you. I was about 12 years old. And he comes and he tells me about this school in Entebbe. It was, a cheaper school, and it was about 150,000 shillings a term. When you put everything together, plus uniform, plus books and everything, it was not more than 200,000 a term. And I realized that I could save 50,000 shillings a month. I could, because I'm the last born. My mom would give me money. My dad would give me money. My uncles would give me money. My siblings would give me money.
Oh, lucky you.
I know. So I always had a little bit more, I knew I didn't need all that money. I knew I wasn't going to go to Garden City and go to the movies. Or I knew that I could do more with that money.
Find it.
I could find something to do with the money. So I paid his school fees. I did not tell anyone. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't tell my best friend. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't see even the need or the point to tell anyone. So he would come to my house. He gives up the bank slip. I give him the money, which was also really important to note that he was a good person. And he never jaded my outlook on helping people. Because if, let's say, because I never used to go to the bank, I'd give him the money, he would go to the bank, pay the fees, and bring the bank slip back to me.
Imagine, but the accountability.
The accountability is like, listen, I've paid your money. I always often imagine if he was sneaky or crafty, it would have completely...
Yeah, it could have completely broken your heart, like so many people
Exactly.
who've tried to help and they're like...
Yeah. But he was very honest. And I paid his school fees all the way from S1 up to his S4.
Oh my goodness.
And then when he was in S4, then he also went to S5, S6. So I paid as well. At that time, I was in uni.
Okay.
I was in uni.
When did your mother find out?
So now how she found out is he came home. He got this, scholarship through the nuns. It had nothing to do with me because, he's a devout Catholic. So through the convent, they took him to some institute in Luwero. I can't really remember the name, to do agriculture.
So this is after his S6?
This is after his S6 because obviously I could not afford university. He was like, of course I know that, I'll make a plan. So then he went to Luwero. So we sort of, you'd say, parted ways. But of course we remained in contact, and call here and there. I always check on him. But that time I was in South Africa. So now when I came back home, I can't remember what month it was, but I was on holiday here. he came to tell me that he had managed, as boys do, he had managed to get a connection to go to Dubai to work. And at that time, it was real work. It wasn't as dodge as most of the people who were going to the Middle East. There's another conversation all over it there, but it was real legitimate work. And he was going to do security guarding. So he was really happy. He thought the opportunity was wonderful, and I was happy for him. So he came to say thank you. And he came with a whole basket of fruits and vegetables, and he had watermelons. A very funny story. I was upstairs in my room. He knocked on the gate. The gardener opened the gate. My mom was downstairs, and then he says, "I'm looking for Michelle." Now he's grown at this time, so my mom is thinking,
Who is this young man?
Why is this young man looking for Michelle with watermelons and bananas and cabbages and all these things? My mom was like, "This is very, very crafty." So she says, "How do you know Michelle?" And I was upstairs, and then he says, but I always have to pause. He says, "Michelle is my mother." So he thinks that this is making it better, because he also put 2 and 2 together, and he figured out my mom was thinking maybe he's come to propose.
Yes.
Then he says, no, not like that.
But your mother
is like, "What? Mother? How? Where?" Then he's like, "Oh no, not like that." So he explains, and he says, she's been paying my school fees since S1. And then my mom was like, "What are you talking about?" So he explains our whole relationship, how we've had this parent-child relationship, even though we're basically almost the same age. And I remember the auntie who works at home says, "Yes, this boy has been coming here, for so many years. And Michelle has been helping him." So my mom bursts into tears. She calls me. She said, "Michelle, come." And I'm like, "What's going on?" And then she says to me, what is this boy talking about?" And I say, "Oh." Then it hit me. And she says to me, "I can't believe you were going to die. You would even have gone to your grave knowing you had done this for the last 6 years or so. I can't believe it. I can't believe that you used to actually save your money and pay someone's school fees."
Well, there's that, but I think she also couldn't believe you had never talked about
Yes,
it.
I never even thought about talking about it. I didn't see why or the need to talk about it. But she knew for my confirmation class. I noticed this girl. She didn't have, she was not looking like the rest of us in the confirmation class, and everybody was super excited about the confirmation day, and they were talking about the dresses they're going to wear, and I could see she was to herself. And I remember asking her why she was upset, and she said to me she doesn't have a dress. And my mom is meticulous in the sense that my eldest sisters, she still had their dresses and stockings and hats and fascinators and from their confirmations and all these things. She'd keep them in these trunks. And I went home and I said to her, don't worry. I went home and I packed this full outfit with stockings and a hat and everything and gloves, and I brought it to her. She's like, "Can't take this." I said, "Yes, you can. It has been sitting in the trunk for I don't know how many years. You can take it." And then she was so happy. And then, of course, now she got excited about the confirmation day. I didn't even wear white. I wore green. I was feeling a rebel. I remember I was like, I'm not going to wear white. Everyone is wearing white. And I wore pants.
And you gave someone a white
Yes,
dress.
and I was in P5. But I was still feeling like rebellious. Maybe it was the activist in me. I don't know. I wore
why
green.
green?
I don't know. I just wore a green suit. I didn't wear white.
A dress?
No. To my confirmation, I wore pants and like a flowy.
I am beginning to understand this child.
Yes, and my
And
mom was like,
the parents just being like,
you just
that's
let
our daughter.
her wear green. So I was the only one. All my sisters wore, the whites and the stockings, and I didn't wear that to my confirmation. And I remember feeling really cool that I was in green and everybody else. It wasn't really green. It was, I don't know what color that. It was like a mixture of. It was like a pale. It was almost pale green. It wasn't that bright green.
Okay.
And almost looks like a ceramic sort of color. And I remember she was so smart and she was happy, and my mom knew. She just looked at her, looked at how I was looking at her, and you know, our relationship. And my mom looked at the clothes that she knew, and my mom told me, "You don't have to go behind my back. You can actually tell me, you know, that you know I need to help a friend and X, Y, and Z." So when I started Malengo Foundation, she was my biggest supporter. Still is my biggest supporter.
Because she had seen it in you all these years.
So she knew from where the background, she knew that I really, really wanted to help people. And I was so passionate about children. I ended up in disability rights by accident.
Okay.
Yeah, I never set out to be known for disability rights or to do anything with persons with disabilities. I wanted to help children. And then when I went into the community, I realized that it became apparent to me that children with special needs were the most vulnerable.
The most vulnerable.
So
absolutely.
That's how I got into disability rights. I started to learn more, to understand the challenges, the predicaments, and to understand more of the social conversations around disability rights. And then it just started to hit me. I started to realize I would go to a place with my friends, maybe a restaurant or whatever, and I would never see any youth with disabilities. And I just never bought into this idea that they're all poor, or they're all living on the fringes of society. So I would go to universities like Chambogo University, which has a really thriving special needs faculty in Chambogo University, and you find all these really intellectual persons persons with disabilities, blind, deaf, persons with albinism, but you just don't see them.
Yeah.
You don't, when you go to the malls or to the restaurants or to the social places or to the beaches. So that became, I became like
curious.
Yes, I became like a dog with a bone. I was like, why don't I see them? And
but I want to understand, because you mentioned helping this young man for all those years.
Yes.
You and Gayaza, was it the entire time?
No, I went to Rainbow as well. Cambodian Rainbow.
Cambodian Rainbow.
Yes.
In that time when you were in school, were you
Yes.
doing anything? Were you involved in maybe, you know, these different clubs, charitable causes? You know,
No, I was an interactor, but I was never, I wouldn't say that I was an interactor because I wanted to go to other schools. For the same reason everyone was in Interact, because your guys are like, it's an opportunity to go to SMAC or to go to boys.
Oh man.
But even if it was like to go and visit a
But
girls'
just to have
school,
a life.
you just have a life.
outside
You go to
of-
Navisunsa, you go to
The fun
that's why I
trips.
was in Interact. I don't recall being in any club specifically for charitable causes, but just my
Because you know there are the Rotary clubs in schools and stuff like that.
But as a personality, I was always keen about who around me is living on the fringe. It was always, because I remember even I would always be like, who didn't have grab or who didn't have
That's the thing.
a
It's like, so you're
deodorant
always
or-
noticing those little gaps and,
yes.
and the people who would withdraw and keep to themselves.
Yes.
Right.
So I
and many people are oblivious, especially children. Oh my
Yes.
God, can be so oblivious.
Exactly.
Either mean, sometimes almost bullies, but just oblivious.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So for me, it was always just, it wasn't something that I thought of in such a structured way until after uni.
So it just like naturally
It
evolved
naturally,
for you.
even when I went to South Africa, then I was helping, there's a boy I was helping called Vuyo. For me, it has always been, I meet you spontaneously, I see your predicament, how can I help? I can help. I
Then you
plug
do.
in, that's it. But then when I left uni, I realized it is something that I could do structurally. I could help so many more people if I did it structurally as opposed to just doing it spontaneously.
one person here, another person there.
Yes, especially when I found out about UP education. I found out that, 50,000 a term? At maximum 80,000. I spent that at Java's, just on a lunch date with my friends. I even spend more. So I started to say to my friends, guys, you can just save one Java's meal and pay school fees for a child. And when you really think about it in that way, it's really nothing.
not much.
It's not much. But as I started to go into the community, I started to interface with a lot of children with disabilities. My turning point is I went to a home, and there was this mother. She had 4 children. Was it 4 or 5? One of them had a disability, was deaf, and couldn't speak. And the reason why he couldn't speak is because he was born deaf. A lot of people think that people who are deaf are dumb. That's really silly. You can speak because you had speech from when you were in your mother's belly.
Yes.
The only reason you can speak is because you had speech.
Yes.
Deaf and hard of hearing people, especially deaf, completely deaf people, don't hear speech. It is the only reason why they don't speak. But speaking and thinking, there is no connection. You are completely capable of functioning and thinking, even if you're not able to speak. But you have to have...
the fact that we can say the same things in different languages.
Exactly. But you have to be stimulated from when you're a child.
Okay.
The only thing you find the deaf and the hard of hearing, they're on the back burner because the special needs education, especially for the deaf and hard of hearing, it's very bleak. So you find that the languages that they have to form are very rudimentary. But if you have a deaf child who is stimulated academically from when they're 3 years old, there is no...
nothing to hold them back.
Nothing to hold them back. So this lady, of course, also living on the fringes of society, sells cassava. At the time, was selling, deep fried cassava.
So she had her 4 children,
yes.
And there was the one boy.
Yeah, and she was a single mother.
Okay.
One thing I appreciated about her, I appreciated a lot of things about her, but she was very clean. Her home was small but sparkling. Even her latrine was, because I asked to use the toilet, was just spotless. She was extremely, extremely clean. Even the things she used to fry her cassava was just exceptional. I thought she was very organized and very, 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 very clean. But her son, who was deaf, she never brushed his teeth.
Oh, come on.
No. And her reasoning was, he doesn't speak. So because he doesn't speak, no one speaks to him.
So it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Although now he was getting gum infections. Exactly. So for me, that was a really turn, because that was social. That was psychological. Not that she didn't have the toothpaste. She was brushing. Her children were spotlessly clean. Even the deaf child was really well taken care of. He was clean and, fed well.
Because he
used to get sick a lot because of his teeth.
Oral hygiene, yes.
Exactly. So we decided, one of the first things I did was a dental clinic. So I went to, I found a dentist who allowed to, offer their time. And then we actually realized that so many deaf children, their parents don't brush their teeth. So this is not a structure issue, this is social.
That is crazy.
Yes. So for me, that was I thought about it and I said, the toothpaste is there, but she's thinking to herself, this child doesn't speak, doesn't have friends who speak to them, so why should I brush their teeth?
But what's disturbing is, are we supposed to brush our teeth for other people?
Yeah, but then of course, when you put into consideration her level of education.
Yes.
Her level of understanding. She was not being negligent. She just
didn't think it was
important. And I still stress, I think she's a good mother, right? But the social disparities of disability rates is so overlooked. Everybody looks at what is structural, but nobody is social. That is how I ended up writing. That is why I write.
So you weren't writing in school?
No, I mean writing books. No, I never even did literature in A-levels.
Oh, come on.
I keep telling people.
And your book is this big. It's like...
My niece says that I am possessed with Jane Eyre's ghost. But anyway, that's like...
Oh my goodness, I cannot believe this.
Yes, I didn't even do literature in A-levels. I tried to do literature. Okay, so I've always been more prone to science subjects.
Okay.
But then my S4 vacation, I went to visit my sister Miana in Dar es Salaam. And she was doing law. And at the time, she was in her internship. And she had all these suits and these shoes. And I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I came back. I used to look at her outfits. I'm like, "You're going to work?
Looking like that?
Looking like you look fabulous." So I was like, "This is the career for me." So when I came back from my holidays, I said to my mom, "I'm not doing sciences." She's like, "What?" I said, "No, I'm going to do arts. I'm going to do history." That time
Economics.
Economics, literature. And I was like, "No, you're not. You can't do arts. I mean, you can, but you die. You know, you like numbers." I said, "No, no, no, no. I'm going to be a lawyer." I complained.
The wardrobe influenced us.
2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah.